Hello, beautiful soul. I'm Aurora, and welcome to Twin Flame Journey, a space where we explore the deeper meaning behind soul connections, divine timing, and the path that leads two hearts back to union. If you've been feeling the signs, you're in the right place.
Have you ever had a moment where your emotions suddenly changed and you had no idea why? You were having a perfectly normal day. Nothing dramatic happened. No bad news. No arguments. No stressful events. And yet, out of nowhere, a strange feeling appeared inside your chest. Maybe it was a wave of sadness. Maybe it was a sudden heaviness in your heart. Or maybe it was an unexpected calm that felt almost sacred, as if someone had just wrapped your soul in warmth. At first, you might dismiss it. You might think you're just tired, or stressed, or imagining things. But then something strange happens. A few hours later, or sometimes the very next day, you discover that the person you can't seem to stop thinking about, the one who feels strangely connected to your soul, was going through something at that exact moment. Maybe they were crying. Maybe they were overwhelmed. Maybe they were thinking about you too. And suddenly, a quiet question forms in your mind. How could I feel that when they were miles away? This is one of the most mysterious experiences reported by people who believe they have encountered what many call a twin flame connection. Across the world, thousands of people share similar stories. Stories about feeling another person's emotions without a phone call. Stories about suddenly waking up in the middle of the night, only to discover later that their twin was awake at the same time. Stories about a deep energetic awareness that seems to exist beyond normal communication. And while skeptics often dismiss these experiences as coincidence or imagination, those who have lived through them say the same thing. It didn't feel like coincidence. It felt real. It felt powerful. And most of all, it felt impossible to ignore. But what if there is something deeper happening beneath the surface? What if the connection between two people can sometimes extend beyond words, beyond physical presence, and into the subtle world of energy? To understand this idea, we need to step back and look at something fascinating about the human body that most people rarely think about. Every human being generates an energy field. Your brain produces electrical signals. Your heart produces electromagnetic waves. In fact, scientists have discovered that the human heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body, a field that can extend several feet beyond the physical body. This means that every moment of your life, your body is silently broadcasting information through energy. Your emotions change the rhythm of your heart. Your thoughts influence your nervous system. Your feelings shape the frequency of your heart's electrical signals. And these signals don't just stay inside your body. They radiate outward. Now, imagine two people who share a deep emotional bond. When they spend time together, their nervous systems begin to interact. Their breathing patterns subtly adjust to each other. Their emotional states influence one another. Their bodies begin to synchronize in ways they may not consciously notice. You've probably seen this happen before without realizing it. Close friends often start laughing at the same time. Couples sometimes finish each other's sentences. Two people sitting quietly together can suddenly feel calmer, even if neither of them said a single word. These moments are examples of something scientists call physiological synchronization. But within the twin flame community, people believe that this synchronization can go even deeper, much deeper. They describe something known as energy exchange. Energy exchange is the idea that two souls who share an extremely strong spiritual connection can influence each other's emotional and energetic state, even when they are physically apart. In other words, the bond between them doesn't rely entirely on physical proximity. Instead, it exists through a subtle energetic link, an invisible thread connecting two hearts. People who experience this often describe it in surprisingly similar ways. One person may suddenly feel anxious without knowing why. Later, they discover their twin was facing a difficult moment. Another person may feel an unexpected sense of peace wash over them, almost like a wave of calm, arriving out of nowhere. Hours later, their twin messages them saying they were just thinking about them with love. Sometimes the connection becomes so strong that the experiences feel almost uncanny. Someone might dream about their twin on the exact night their twin was thinking about them. Someone might suddenly feel emotional and realize later that their twin was remembering an old memory. Of course, it's important to approach these stories with curiosity rather than blind belief. Human emotions are complex. Our minds are powerful. And coincidence does exist. But when the same kinds of experiences are reported again and again by people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and different parts of the world, it raises an interesting possibility. Maybe human connection is more powerful than we currently understand. Maybe love doesn't only exist through conversations and physical presence. Maybe there is an energetic dimension to relationships that science is only beginning to explore. And if that is true, then twin flame connections might represent one of the most intense forms of energetic resonance between two people. A resonance so strong that the emotional state of one person can echo inside the other. A resonance so powerful that even silence cannot break it. Think about that for a moment. What if the reason you sometimes feel emotions that don't seem to belong to you is because somewhere out there, another heart is experiencing them? What if the sudden calm you felt during a difficult moment wasn't random at all? What if it was the energetic presence of someone who shares your soul's frequency? This idea may sound mystical. It may sound romantic, or even unbelievable. But for those who have experienced it, the feeling is unmistakable. They describe it as a quiet awareness, a subtle knowing, a feeling that someone else's emotional world is gently brushing against their own. Not through words, not through messages, but through energy. And if twin flames truly share this kind of energetic exchange, it would explain why so many people report feeling their twins' emotions even when they haven't spoken for months or even years. Because when two hearts resonate on the same energetic frequency, distance may separate their bodies. Silence may separate their voices. But the connection itself never truly disappears. It simply continues quietly beneath the surface, waiting for the moment when both souls are ready to understand what they are feeling. And in the next part of this journey, we'll explore one of the most fascinating aspects of this energetic bond, the mysterious way two hearts can begin to synchronize their rhythms, sometimes in ways that science itself is only beginning to uncover. Because when two souls truly connect, sometimes it feels like their hearts are no longer beating alone. Imagine sitting quietly across from someone. No conversation, no dramatic moment, just silence. And yet something strange begins to happen. Your breathing slows down. Your body relaxes. The constant noise inside your mind fades into the background. For a brief moment, it feels as if time itself has softened. Now imagine looking into that person's eyes and realizing something even more unusual. Your heartbeat feels different, calmer, steadier, almost as if your heart has found a rhythm that matches theirs. For many people who believe they have encountered their twin flame, this experience is not just poetic language or romantic imagination. It is something they describe as a very real, physical sensation. They often say it feels like their hearts are somehow synchronizing. And while this may sound mystical at first, the idea that two people can influence each other's physiological state is not entirely outside the realm of science. In fact, researchers studying emotional connection and human physiology have observed that when people share deep emotional bonds, their bodies can begin to mirror each other in subtle ways. This phenomenon is often referred to as physiological synchronization. When two people spend time together, especially in emotionally meaningful moments, their breathing patterns can align. Their nervous systems can begin responding in similar rhythms. Even their heart rates can sometimes begin to fluctuate in comparable patterns. You may have experienced a small version of this before without realizing it. Think about moments when you sit next to someone you trust deeply. A close friend, a romantic partner, a family member you feel safe with. Often, your body relaxes simply because they are present. Your shoulders drop. Your breathing becomes slower. Your heart rate gradually decreases. Your body recognizes the environment as safe. This is not just emotional, it is biological. Human beings are deeply social creatures, and our nervous systems are designed to interact with the nervous systems of others. When someone nearby feels calm, their calmness can influence you. When someone nearby feels anxious, you may suddenly feel uneasy too. This emotional transmission is part of what psychologists sometimes call emotional contagion. But in the twin flame community, people believe this synchronization can occur at an even deeper level. Not just emotional, energetic. Many individuals describe moments when they felt their twin flame's presence and immediately experienced a shift in their heart space. Some describe a warm sensation spreading across the chest. Others report a powerful feeling of peace, almost like their nervous system suddenly turned off its internal alarms. And interestingly, these experiences often occur during moments of intense connection. When they hug, when they sit in silence together, when they look deeply into each other's eyes, or even when they meditate together. Meditation is especially fascinating in this context. In recent years, researchers studying meditation practices have begun observing something remarkable. When two people meditate together, especially when they share a strong emotional bond, there are cases where their physiological signals begin to synchronize over time. Some studies have suggested that participants in shared meditation environments can show similarities in heart rhythm patterns. Others have observed brainwave patterns that begin to align in subtle ways. While these studies are still developing and require more evidence, they point toward an intriguing idea. Human bodies are capable of energetic and physiological resonance. And if ordinary emotional bonds can create this kind of synchronization, what might happen when two people share an exceptionally intense connection? This is where the concept of heart coherence becomes important. Heart coherence refers to a state in which the heart's rhythm becomes smooth, balanced, and harmonious. When a person experiences positive emotions like gratitude, love, or compassion, their heart rhythm tends to shift into a more stable pattern. In contrast, emotions such as anger, stress, or fear often create irregular heart rhythms. Researchers studying heart coherence have discovered that when someone enters this calm, coherent state, the electromagnetic field produced by their heart becomes more organized. And remember something fascinating. The human heart produces the largest electromagnetic field in the body. This field doesn't stop at the skin. It extends outward into the space around us, which raises a curious possibility. If your heart generates an electromagnetic field, and another person's heart generates its own field, then when two people are close to each other, their energetic fields inevitably interact. Most of the time, we may not notice this interaction consciously, but in deeply connected relationships, the effect may become much more noticeable. Some people describe this as feeling their twin flame's energy the moment they enter a room. Others say that when their twin flame hugs them, they experience a wave of calm that feels almost immediate. It's as if the presence of the other person helps stabilize their entire emotional system, almost like two instruments tuning themselves to the same note. But perhaps the most intriguing stories come from people who experienced heart synchronization without even being physically together. There are accounts of individuals meditating and suddenly feeling intense warmth in their chest. Later, their twin flame tells them they were also meditating at the exact same time. Some describe waking up suddenly in the middle of the night with a strong emotional feeling, only to discover later that their twin flame was going through something deeply emotional during that moment. Are these experiences proof of energetic synchronization? Science cannot yet give a definitive answer. But what we can say is that the human heart is far more complex and powerful than we once believed. It is not just a pump. It is an electrical generator, a rhythmic communicator, an organ that constantly interacts with the nervous system and the brain. And perhaps under certain circumstances, it can interact with another person's heart in ways we are only beginning to understand. For those who believe in the twin flame journey, this synchronization is seen as one of the most beautiful aspects of the connection, because it suggests something extraordinary, that love may not only exist as an emotion, It may also exist as a shared energetic rhythm. Two hearts gradually learning to move together. Two nervous systems slowly finding balance through each other. Two lives influencing one another on levels that words cannot fully describe. But this raises an even deeper question. If two people can synchronize their hearts while they are together, what happens when they are separated? Does the connection fade away? Or does the energetic exchange continue quietly across distance? Many twin flame stories suggest something surprising. In fact, some people say the energetic connection becomes even stronger during periods of separation, which leads us to one of the most mysterious phases of the twin flame journey. The moments when two people are physically apart, but somehow still deeply connected. And in the next chapter, we will explore the strange and powerful experiences that many people report during these times. Moments when emotions appear from nowhere. Moments when thoughts seem to travel between two minds. Moments when the invisible thread between two souls becomes impossible to ignore. Imagine this scenario. You wake up in the morning feeling completely normal. The day begins like any other day. You drink your coffee, check your phone, maybe scroll through messages or social media. Nothing unusual. Nothing dramatic. And then suddenly something shifts. A wave of emotion appears inside you. It might be sadness. Not the kind that comes from a clear reason. Not the kind that follows bad news or a painful memory. Instead, it feels like a quiet heaviness spreading through your chest. You pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple question. Why do I feel like this? You try to think back over the last few hours. Did something happen? Did someone say something upsetting? Did you remember something painful? But nothing comes to mind. Everything in your external world seems completely normal. And yet, the feeling remains. Later that evening, you discover something unexpected. The person who has been on your mind for months, the one you feel mysteriously connected to, has been going through a difficult moment. Maybe they were overwhelmed. Maybe they were crying. Maybe they were thinking about you. And suddenly you realize something that sends a quiet shiver down your spine. The moment they were struggling was the same moment your emotions changed. Coincidence? Perhaps. But for people who believe they are experiencing a twin flame connection, moments like this happen more often than chance would easily explain. Many describe it as if their emotional world is somehow linked to another person's inner state, almost like two hearts connected by an invisible thread. Across countless personal stories shared online and in spiritual communities, one experience appears again and again. People report feeling their twins' emotions from miles away. They may suddenly feel anxious for no reason. They may feel an unexpected wave of love. They may feel a strange emotional intensity that doesn't seem to belong to their own circumstances. At first, most people dismiss these sensations. They assume they are simply tired, stressed, or overthinking. But when the same pattern repeats again and again, something begins to feel different. They start noticing timing. The emotional shift happens, and later they learn their twin was experiencing something significant. During that exact moment, it might happen once, then twice, then several times over the course of months or years. Eventually, a quiet realization begins to form. Maybe these feelings aren't entirely their own. Maybe they're picking up on the emotional energy of someone else. This idea is often described as emotional energy exchange within the twin flame journey. The concept suggests that when two people share an extremely strong energetic bond, their emotional states can influence each other even when they are physically separated. Think about how powerful emotions can be even in ordinary relationships. When someone you love is sad, you often feel sad too. When someone you care about is joyful, their happiness lifts your mood. This happens even through a phone call or a text message. But in twin flame stories, people claim the emotional awareness exists even without communication. No messages, no calls, no visible signs. Just a sudden emotional shift that seems to appear out of nowhere. Some individuals say they can even distinguish which emotions belong to them and which feel like they come from their twin. They describe their own feelings as familiar, predictable. But when their twin's emotional energy surfaces, it feels different. more sudden, more intense, almost like an emotional signal arriving from outside their usual inner landscape. One woman shared an experience that illustrates this beautifully. She explained that during a normal afternoon at work, she suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to cry. There was no obvious reason. Her day had been calm and productive, but the emotion felt so strong that she stepped outside for fresh air. Later that evening, her twin flame contacted her for the first time in weeks. He told her that earlier that day, he had been remembering their past and had broken down emotionally. The time he described matched the exact moment she had stepped outside feeling the sudden wave of sadness. Stories like this appear repeatedly in twin flame discussions. Another person described feeling sudden anxiety late at night. Their heart began racing, and they couldn't understand why. Hours later, they learned their twin had been going through a stressful confrontation at work at the same time. Again, the timing matched. Are these experiences proof of energetic connection? Science cannot yet confirm that emotional states can travel between people across long distances. But psychology does offer some interesting insights that may help us understand part of the phenomenon. Human beings possess a powerful capacity for empathy. Empathy allows us to sense and understand the emotions of others. When we know someone deeply, we become familiar with their emotional patterns. We can often predict how they might react in certain situations. We can feel concern even when they haven't spoken to us. But empathy alone does not fully explain the stories many twin flame believers share. Because in many cases, the emotional awareness appears before any information is exchanged. Before a message, before a phone call, before any visible sign that something happened. This is why some people describe the connection as a form of energetic empathy, a heightened sensitivity to the emotional field of another person, almost like emotional radar. Some spiritual traditions describe this phenomenon using the concept of energetic cords. According to this perspective, when two people form a very deep emotional bond, an energetic link forms between their hearts. Through this connection, emotional energy can travel in subtle ways. Again, whether this idea is metaphorical or literal is still open to interpretation. But what matters most is the experience itself. And for those who have lived through it, the emotional connection feels undeniably real. There is also an important detail that appears in many of these stories. The emotional awareness often becomes stronger during periods of separation. This may seem surprising. One might assume that distance weakens emotional connection. But many twin flame experiences suggest the opposite. When two people are physically apart, they often become more sensitive to subtle emotional signals. Without constant communication or physical presence, their awareness shifts inward. They begin paying closer attention to their inner emotional world. And within that quiet space, they sometimes notice feelings that don't seem to originate from their own thoughts. This heightened sensitivity can lead to powerful moments of realization. Someone may suddenly feel a wave of love and know instinctively that their twin is thinking about them. Someone may feel emotional turbulence and later discover their twin was facing an important life event. Of course, it's important to approach these experiences with balance. Not every emotional shift is connected to another person. Human emotions are complex, and our internal world is influenced by countless factors: stress, memories, physical health, environment, and subconscious thoughts. Attributing every feeling to a twin flame can create confusion and emotional dependency. Healthy awareness requires grounding and self-understanding. But even with that caution, the recurring patterns reported by so many individuals remain fascinating, because they hint at something profound about human connection. Perhaps the emotional bonds between certain people are stronger than we currently understand. Perhaps our hearts and nervous systems are capable of subtle communication that science has not yet fully explored. Or perhaps the experience of a twin flame connection simply heightens our awareness of emotional energy in ways most people rarely notice. Whatever the explanation may be, one thing is clear. The idea that two people can feel each other's emotions across distance continues to capture the imagination of those walking the twin flame path. It suggests that connection does not depend entirely on proximity. It suggests that love, empathy, and emotional resonance may exist on levels deeper than physical presence. And if emotional awareness can travel across distance, it raises an even more mysterious question. What about thoughts? Can two people who share a powerful spiritual bond sometimes sense each other's thoughts as well? Can a connection between two minds become so strong that communication begins to happen silently, without words? In the next chapter, we will explore one of the most intriguing experiences reported by twin flames around the world. Moments when people think about their twin, and seconds later the phone rings. Moments when two people seem to share the same thought at the exact same time. Moments that lead many to wonder whether something extraordinary might be happening between two connected minds. Have you ever thought about someone and seconds later, your phone lit up with their message? Maybe you were walking down the street, and their name suddenly appeared in your mind for no clear reason. You hadn't spoken to them in days, maybe even weeks. And yet, almost immediately after the thought appeared, your phone buzzed. A message from them. At first, it might seem like coincidence. After all, coincidences happen every day. People think about friends and relatives all the time. But what makes certain experiences stand out is the pattern. When the same strange timing happens again and again and again. This is one of the most commonly reported experiences among people who believe they share a twin flame connection. They describe moments when thinking about their twin seems to trigger communication. Moments when two minds appear to reach toward each other across distance. Some call this telepathic connection. Others describe it as soul-level communication. And while the term telepathy often sounds like something from science fiction, the experiences themselves are often surprisingly subtle. Most of the time, they don't involve hearing voices or receiving clear messages inside the mind. Instead, they show up in much quieter ways. A sudden thought. A strong urge to check your phone. An image of the other person appearing in your mind without warning. And then moments later contact happens. Or sometimes something even stranger occurs. Both people think about each other at the exact same time. Imagine this. You're sitting alone late at night. Maybe you're listening to music or reflecting on memories. Suddenly, a vivid memory of your twin flame appears in your mind. You start wondering how they are doing. You consider sending a message but hesitate. Then, before you even decide what to say, a notification appears. They messaged you first. When this happens once, it might feel amusing. When it happens several times, it becomes intriguing. But when it becomes a recurring pattern, it begins to feel mysterious. Many people on the twin flame journey say these moments feel like evidence that their connection exists beyond ordinary communication. They feel as if their thoughts somehow resonate with each other, almost like two radios tuned to the same frequency. To understand why this idea fascinates so many people, we need to look at something important about the human mind. The brain is not just a collection of thoughts. It is an electrical system. Every thought you have is accompanied by electrical activity inside the brain. These electrical signals produce patterns known as brainwaves. Scientists can measure these brainwaves using technologies such as electroencephalography, EEG. Different brainwave patterns correspond to different mental states. For example, when you are focused and alert, your brain produces beta waves. When you are relaxed or meditating, your brain produces alpha or theta waves. When you are deeply asleep, slower delta waves dominate. This means that your brain is constantly generating electrical signals as it processes thoughts and emotions. Now imagine two people who share an extremely deep emotional bond. When they spend time together, their emotional states often influence each other. They may laugh together, feel calm together, experience joy or vulnerability together. Over time, their nervous systems become familiar with each other's rhythms. This phenomenon is well documented in psychology. Researchers studying close relationships have found that couples often develop subtle forms of synchronization in behavior, emotional reactions, and even physiological responses. But what happens when those two people are no longer in the same physical space? Could their mental and emotional patterns still influence each other? Science does not currently have a clear answer. There is no widely accepted evidence that thoughts can travel directly between minds across long distances. However, the idea of mental resonance is not entirely dismissed either. Researchers studying human perception, intuition, and empathy have long acknowledged that the brain is highly sensitive to patterns and emotional cues. Humans are exceptionally good at predicting the behavior of people they know deeply. Sometimes our minds anticipate someone's actions before they happen. Sometimes we feel a strong impulse to reach out to someone at the exact moment they need support. In many cases, these moments can be explained through psychological familiarity. But within the twin flame experience, people often feel the connection operates at a deeper level. They report moments when their thoughts appear to align with their twin's thoughts without any clear explanation. Some describe this as receiving emotional impressions rather than specific words. For example, someone may suddenly feel an intense urge to contact their twin. The feeling may feel urgent, almost like an internal signal. Later they discover that their twin was thinking about them intensely at that same moment. Others describe moments during meditation when vivid images of their twin appear in their mind. Not as ordinary memories, but as if their twin's presence is briefly entering their awareness. In spiritual traditions, this type of experience is sometimes described as telepathic resonance between connected souls. The idea suggests that when two people share a deep energetic bond, their minds may become unusually sensitive to each other's mental and emotional states. Again, this does not necessarily mean that thoughts are literally transmitted like messages. Instead, it may mean that the emotional and mental patterns of one person can influence the awareness of the other in subtle ways. Think of it like two musical instruments placed close to each other. If one instrument vibrates strongly enough, the other may begin vibrating in response. This phenomenon is called resonance. The instruments are not touching. They are not directly connected, but the vibration of one influences the vibration of the other. Some people believe that human minds can occasionally experience a similar form of resonance, especially when emotional bonds are extremely strong. Within the twin flame journey, these silent moments of connection often become deeply meaningful. They remind people that their connection may not depend entirely on physical communication. They feel as if there is a quiet conversation happening beneath the surface. A conversation made of emotions, memories, intuition, and awareness. Of course, it is important to approach these experiences with curiosity rather than absolute certainty. The human mind is incredibly complex. Our thoughts are influenced by memory, imagination, subconscious associations, and emotional needs. Not every coincidence is a sign of telepathy. Not every sudden thought about someone means they are thinking about you too. Maintaining emotional balance and self-awareness is essential. But even with that perspective, the stories shared by people on the twin flame journey continue to raise fascinating questions. Because when two people repeatedly experience moments where their thoughts seem to align, it becomes difficult not to wonder if something deeper is happening. Perhaps the human mind is more connected to others than we currently understand. Perhaps emotional bonds create subtle channels of awareness between individuals. Or perhaps the experience of a twin flame simply heightens intuition in ways that make people more sensitive to each other's presence. Whatever the explanation may be, these moments often leave a lasting impression. They make people pause and reflect. They remind us that connection between human beings can operate on many levels: physical, emotional, psychological, and perhaps even energetic. And sometimes, the most powerful conversations are the ones that happen without words. But as intriguing as these silent mental connections may be, they are only one piece of the larger twin flame experience. Because there is another phenomenon that many people report when this energetic bond becomes stronger. Strange patterns of coincidence begin appearing everywhere. Numbers repeat. Songs play at meaningful moments. Unexpected reminders of the other person appear again and again. Events that seem random suddenly start forming patterns. Many people describe these moments as synchronicities. And in the next chapter, we will explore why so many twin flame journeys seem to be surrounded by these mysterious and meaningful coincidences. Have you ever noticed a strange pattern of coincidences appearing in your life right when you start thinking deeply about someone? Maybe you glance at the clock and it says 11:11. Later that day, you hear a song that reminds you of them. Then you open social media and see a quote about soul connections. And somehow everything seems to be pointing back to the same person. At first, you might laugh it off. It feels random. Just another coincidence in the endless stream of daily events. But then it happens again. And again. Numbers repeat. Places connected to them appear unexpectedly. You keep encountering reminders of them in situations where you never expected it. Eventually, a question begins to form in your mind. Why does the universe keep bringing this person to my attention? For many people who believe they are experiencing a twin flame connection, these recurring coincidences are known as synchronicities. The term synchronicity was originally introduced by the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. Jung described synchronicity as meaningful coincidences that seem too significant to be purely random. In other words, events that appear unrelated yet somehow carry a shared meaning. According to Jung, these moments can occur when a person is going through deep psychological or spiritual transformation. They appear like subtle signals that something important is unfolding beneath the surface of everyday life. Within the twin flame journey, synchronicities are often reported as one of the strongest signs of energetic connection. People frequently say that once they meet their twin flame, their lives suddenly become filled with strange patterns and coincidences. Some begin seeing repeating numbers everywhere. Others hear songs connected to their twin flame at oddly specific moments. And many experience unexpected encounters or reminders that seem almost impossible to predict. To understand why these moments feel so powerful, imagine this situation. You are walking through a busy city street. Hundreds of people pass by you. Cars move through intersections. Conversations blend into background noise. In such a chaotic environment, the chances of something specifically related to one particular person appearing at the exact moment you are thinking about them seem extremely small. Yet for many twin flame stories, this is exactly what happens. Someone thinks about their twin flame and immediately hears their favorite song playing in a store. Someone wonders whether their twin flame still thinks about them and seconds later sees their birthday numbers repeated on a license plate. Someone feels uncertain about the connection and suddenly comes across a conversation or article discussing soul connections. These moments may seem small individually, but when they begin to occur repeatedly, they create a powerful psychological effect. They start forming a pattern, and the human mind is incredibly sensitive to patterns. Our brains are designed to search for meaning in the world around us. This ability helped our ancestors survive by recognizing important signals in nature. But in modern life, this pattern recognition can also make coincidences feel deeply meaningful. However, within the twin flame experience, many people insist that synchronicities go beyond ordinary pattern recognition. They say the timing feels too precise, too personal, too emotionally connected to be random. For example, imagine someone who has not spoken to their twin flame in months. One evening they suddenly feel an overwhelming urge to think about them. They start remembering moments they shared together. Just as the emotions reach their peak, a song begins playing on the radio, the exact song that defined their relationship. Moments like this create a sense that something larger is at play. Not necessarily fate in the traditional sense, but some form of alignment between inner thoughts and external events. This is why many spiritual traditions view synchronicities as signals that a person is moving through an important stage of personal transformation. Within the twin flame journey, synchronicities often appear most strongly during periods of emotional intensity, especially during phases of separation. When two people are no longer communicating directly, the absence of normal interaction creates a space where the mind becomes more aware of subtle signs. People begin noticing details they might have previously ignored. Numbers, symbols, songs, words, places. Suddenly, The world feels like it is whispering reminders of the connection everywhere. But there is another interesting dimension to synchronicities. They often appear during moments when someone is questioning the connection itself. Imagine someone who begins doubting whether the twin flame connection is real. They start convincing themselves that everything was just emotional imagination. And then, at that exact moment, they encounter a powerful reminder of the person. Maybe they unexpectedly run into someone who mentions their twin flame's name. Maybe they hear a conversation about soul connections. Maybe they receive a message from their twin flame after weeks of silence. These experiences can feel almost surreal. They create the sensation that life itself is responding to inner thoughts. This does not necessarily mean the universe is literally orchestrating events. But it does suggest that when a person becomes deeply focused on a particular emotional connection, their awareness becomes highly tuned to anything related to that connection. Psychologists sometimes refer to this phenomenon as selective attention. When something becomes important to us, our brains begin noticing it more frequently in the environment. For example, when someone buys a new car, they suddenly start seeing the same model everywhere. The car was always there, but their awareness changed. Similarly, when someone experiences a powerful emotional bond, their awareness becomes highly sensitive to anything connected to that person. However, even with this psychological explanation, many people still feel that twin flame synchronicities carry a deeper significance, because they often appear with emotional timing that feels almost too perfect. A person may be going through a moment of heartbreak and suddenly see a meaningful number. They may be feeling hope and hear a song about reunion. They may be letting go of the connection and encounter a powerful reminder at that exact moment. These experiences can feel like gentle nudges from the universe. Small signs encouraging reflection. Reminders that certain connections leave lasting marks on our lives. But here's something important to remember. Synchronicities are not necessarily instructions. They are not guarantees of reunion. And they should not be interpreted as proof that someone must remain emotionally attached forever. Instead, they can be viewed as invitations to reflect, to ask deeper questions about our emotional world, to explore what certain relationships have awakened inside us. Because often, the twin flame journey is less about another person and more about personal transformation. The connection pushes people to face their fears, heal old emotional wounds, develop self-awareness, grow into stronger, more authentic versions of themselves. And synchronicities often appear during these moments of growth. They show up when someone is learning to listen to their intuition, when someone begins paying attention to the deeper rhythms of life. But perhaps the most fascinating part of the twin flame experience is this. Even when two people stop communicating completely, the connection often continues to evolve. Internally, people report feeling emotional waves from their twin flame. They experience sudden thoughts or dreams. They notice repeating patterns and reminders. All of this raises an intriguing question. If synchronicities and emotional signals continue even when two people are physically apart, what exactly is happening on an energetic level? Is there truly a form of energy exchange occurring between them? Or are these experiences simply reflections of the deep emotional imprint they left on each other's lives? In the next chapter, we will explore one of the most intriguing aspects of this mystery. The idea that twin flames may share a powerful energetic field that continues interacting long after physical contact has ended. A field where emotions, thoughts, and subtle signals seem to flow quietly between two souls. And if that energetic field truly exists, it might explain why so many people feel their twin flames' presence even in complete silence. Imagine standing near someone without touching them. There is a small space between your bodies. Invisible, silent. Yet something is happening in that space. You may not see it with your eyes, but your body can sometimes feel it. A subtle warmth, a strange sense of calm, or occasionally a sudden nervousness. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the atmosphere change? Perhaps the room was filled with tension after an argument. Even though no one said a word, you could feel it instantly. Or maybe you entered a place where people were laughing and relaxed, and your own mood lifted within seconds. Moments like this remind us of something fascinating about human beings. We are not only physical bodies. We are also energetic systems constantly interacting with the environment around us. Every heartbeat produces an electrical signal. Every thought generates neurological activity. Every emotional state alters the rhythm of the nervous system. And all of these processes produce subtle fields of energy around the body. While these fields are invisible to the naked eye, science has long confirmed that the human body generates electromagnetic activity. The brain produces electrical signals. The nervous system communicates through electrochemical impulses. And the heart, perhaps most remarkably, generates a powerful electromagnetic field that extends beyond the body itself. This means that every moment of your life, your body is quietly radiating information into the space around you. Your emotional state influences the rhythm of your heart. Your heart's rhythm influences your nervous system. And your nervous system influences how you interact with the world. Now imagine two people standing close together. Their bodies are not isolated systems. Their energy fields overlap. Their nervous systems respond to each other's presence. Their emotional states begin influencing one another. This interaction is subtle, but it happens constantly in human relationships. You may notice it when someone's anxiety suddenly makes you feel uneasy, or when a calm person seems to relax the entire room simply by being present. This energetic interaction becomes especially noticeable in deep emotional connections. People who share strong bonds often describe feeling each other's emotional states almost instantly. Sometimes they don't need words to understand what the other person is experiencing. A glance, a change in posture, a shift in tone. All of these signals transmit emotional information. But within the twin flame journey, many people believe this interaction goes even deeper. They describe something known as a shared energetic field. According to this perspective, twin flames do not simply influence each other's moods when they are physically close. Instead, their energetic connection continues even when they are separated by distance. It is as if their emotional and energetic systems remain linked on a subtle level. Many individuals describe this connection as a kind of energetic resonance. Resonance is a concept that appears in physics, music, and natural systems. When two objects share a similar vibrational frequency, they can begin influencing each other. For example, if two tuning forks are tuned to the same frequency and one of them is struck, the other may begin vibrating as well. Even though the second fork was never touched, it responds simply because it shares the same resonance. Some people believe that human emotional connections can behave in a similar way. When two individuals share a powerful spiritual bond, their energetic frequencies may become aligned. And once that alignment occurs, their emotional and energetic states can subtly influence each other. This idea is often used to explain why many twin flame experiences continue during periods of separation. People report feeling sudden emotional waves connected to their twin. They describe moments when they feel overwhelming love without a clear source. They experience bursts of sadness or nostalgia that seem to appear unexpectedly. Sometimes these emotional shifts occur at the same time their twin flame is going through something significant. Again, science has not yet proven that energy exchange between individuals can occur across long distances in this way. But the experiences themselves continue to be shared by countless individuals who describe remarkably similar patterns. One particularly interesting aspect of the shared energy field concept involves the heart. The human heart is not just a mechanical pump. It is also an electrical and electromagnetic generator. Every heartbeat produces electrical signals that travel through the body. These signals create electromagnetic waves that extend beyond the skin. Some researchers studying emotional regulation and meditation have observed that the heart's electromagnetic field can interact with the environment around it. When someone enters a state of calm emotional coherence, such as gratitude, compassion, or deep love, the rhythm of their heart becomes more organized. Their nervous system stabilizes. Their breathing slows. Their emotional state becomes balanced. And interestingly, people nearby can sometimes feel the effect of that calm presence. You may have experienced this yourself. Being around someone who feels deeply peaceful can make you feel peaceful too. Their calm energy influences the emotional atmosphere. Now imagine two people whose hearts are deeply connected emotionally and spiritually. If they enter states of emotional coherence at the same time, through meditation, reflection, or simply thinking about each other, their energetic fields may begin resonating in subtle ways. Many people on the twin flame path describe exactly this kind of experience. They report feeling warmth in their chest when thinking about their twin. They feel sudden waves of peace during meditation. They experience moments where their heart feels unusually open and calm. Sometimes these experiences occur at the exact moment their twin flame is thinking about them as well. For those who experience it, the sensation can feel profound. It is not always dramatic. Often it is quiet and subtle, but it carries a deep emotional meaning. It feels as if two hearts are communicating silently through energy rather than words. However, it is important to approach these experiences with balance and awareness. The idea of a shared energy field should not lead people to lose their sense of personal identity or emotional responsibility. Even if two people share a powerful connection, each individual still has their own emotional journey, their own healing process, their own growth. A healthy twin flame journey encourages self-awareness rather than emotional dependence. The purpose of the connection is not to lose yourself in another person. Instead, it often acts as a mirror, reflecting your deepest fears, your unhealed wounds, your hidden strengths, your capacity for love and transformation. The energetic connection may highlight these aspects of your inner world, but the responsibility for healing and growth always remains within you. And perhaps that is one of the most important lessons hidden inside the twin flame experience. The connection may feel magical, mysterious, even supernatural at times, but its deeper purpose is often profoundly human. It pushes people to become more aware of their emotions, more compassionate toward themselves, more honest about their fears and desires. In many ways, the shared energy field between twin flames acts like a mirror reflecting two souls back toward themselves, showing them parts of their inner world they may never have discovered otherwise. And when that awareness begins to grow, something remarkable often begins to happen. The intense emotional turbulence that many twin flames experience in the beginning slowly transforms. The connection becomes less chaotic, less painful, and something new begins to appear in its place. A quiet sense of peace, a deep emotional stability, almost as if the energy between two souls is finally learning how to harmonize. Which leads us to one of the most powerful signs that the energetic connection between twin flames is evolving. A moment when the storm of emotions finally settles, and a calm, steady presence replaces it. In the next chapter, we will explore this stage of the journey. The moment when the energy between two souls begins shifting from emotional chaos into something far more powerful, a state many people describe as deep inner peace. In the early stages of a twin flame connection, emotions often feel overwhelming. People describe it as intense, confusing, sometimes even chaotic. There are powerful highs, moments of deep love, recognition, and emotional closeness that feel almost magical. And then there are the lows, doubt, separation, silence, unanswered questions. For many people walking the twin flame path, the beginning of the journey feels like an emotional storm. One moment you feel certain that this person is deeply connected to your soul. The next moment, you wonder if everything was just an illusion. The emotional intensity can be exhausting. Thoughts about the other person appear constantly. Memories replay in your mind. You search for signs. You look for explanations. You try to understand why this connection feels so different from anything you've experienced before. But as time passes, and especially after long periods of reflection, healing, and personal growth, something remarkable often begins to happen. The storm slowly fades. The intense emotional waves become calmer. The constant mental noise quiets down. And in its place, a new feeling emerges. A deep, quiet peace. Many people who have gone through the twin flame journey describe this stage as one of the most surprising parts of the experience. Because instead of feeling desperate to reconnect, instead of feeling consumed by longing or uncertainty, they begin to feel calm, centered, grounded. The connection still exists. They may still think about their twin flame. They may still feel love for them. But the emotional turbulence that once defined the connection is no longer there. It transforms into something softer, more stable, more peaceful. This shift is often misunderstood. Some people assume that when the intense emotions fade, the connection must be disappearing. They worry that they're losing the bond. But many individuals on the twin flame path say the opposite is actually happening. The connection is not fading. It is evolving. To understand why this stage occurs, we need to consider something important about human emotional growth. In the early stages of powerful relationships, emotions tend to be amplified by unresolved fears. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of losing someone important. These fears activate the nervous system and create emotional instability. When someone feels deeply connected to another person but cannot control the outcome of the relationship, the mind often reacts with anxiety. It tries to analyze every detail, every message, every silence, every sign. But as people move through the twin flame journey, they often begin doing deep inner work. They confront their fears. They heal past emotional wounds. They learn to find stability within themselves instead of relying entirely on another person for emotional security. This personal healing changes everything. When someone begins to feel whole within themselves, the emotional intensity of the connection transforms. Instead of triggering fear, the connection begins to inspire peace. Instead of creating emotional chaos, it begins to create emotional clarity. Many people describe this stage as energetic balance. Earlier in the journey, the energy between twin flames may feel unstable. One person pulls closer. The other pulls away. One person seeks answers. The other retreats into silence. This dynamic is often described as the runner and chaser phase. But as both individuals grow emotionally and spiritually, this imbalance begins to dissolve. The chasing energy fades. The running energy softens. And the connection enters a new phase of calm awareness. At this stage, something beautiful often happens. People begin feeling their twin flames' presence not as emotional turmoil, but as quiet support. Instead of sudden waves of anxiety, they experience moments of deep calm when thinking about the other person. Instead of obsessive thoughts, they feel gentle appreciation for the role that connection played in their life. Sometimes the stage even brings a surprising sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons learned. Gratitude for the growth that occurred because of the connection. Gratitude for discovering parts of themselves that had been hidden before. The twin flame connection, which once felt overwhelming, now becomes something peaceful, like a quiet star in the sky, always present, but no longer demanding constant attention. This transformation often marks an important milestone in the journey, because it shows that the connection is no longer driven by emotional wounds or unmet needs. Instead, it begins to reflect something deeper, a state of emotional maturity, self-love, and inner balance. Many people report that during this stage, their intuition becomes clearer. They stop searching obsessively for signs. They stop trying to control the future of the connection. Instead, they focus on living their own life fully, pursuing their goals, developing their talents, building meaningful relationships, and, strangely, this sense of independence often strengthens the energetic connection rather than weakening it.
Why?
Because true connection does not require constant attention. It does not require emotional dependency. Healthy energetic bonds thrive when both individuals are strong within themselves. Two complete individuals can share a connection without losing their own identity. In fact, many people say that once they reached the stage of peace, they began noticing something fascinating. The energetic connection with their twin flame became more harmonious. They felt fewer emotional disturbances. But when they did sense their twin flames' presence energetically, it felt calm, comforting, supportive, almost like a silent encouragement. This shift from chaos to peace may be one of the most meaningful transformations within the entire twin flame journey. It represents the moment when the connection stops being a source of confusion and becomes a source of personal strength. And perhaps this is the deeper purpose of the connection itself. Not simply reunion, not simply romance, but growth, transformation, awakening. The twin flame journey often begins with intense emotional upheaval, but if both individuals continue evolving, the connection eventually becomes something much more beautiful, a quiet alignment between two souls who have learned to stand on their own. And when that inner stability is finally reached, something extraordinary can happen. The energetic exchange between the two people becomes balanced, peaceful, harmonious, almost like two hearts beating calmly in the same rhythm. And at that moment, the question that once caused so much anxiety begins to lose its power. Will we reunite? Because the truth is, when two souls reach this level of peace and alignment, reunion is no longer driven by desperation. It becomes something far more natural, a meeting of two individuals who are no longer searching for completion in each other, but who are ready to share their completeness together. In the next chapter, we will explore one of the most mysterious aspects of this stage, the subtle signs that often appear when the energetic connection between twin flames becomes balanced. Signs that many people believe signal that the connection is moving closer to true energetic harmony and possibly reunion. There is a moment in many twin flame journeys when something shifts, not dramatically, not like the emotional storms that often appear at the beginning of the connection. Instead, the change is quiet, subtle, almost peaceful. It may happen after months or even years of inner growth and emotional healing. One day, you simply notice that the energy surrounding the connection feels different. The constant questioning fades. The emotional intensity softens. And in its place, a calm awareness begins to grow. You still think about your twin flame. You may still feel love for them. But the way that love exists inside you has changed. It is no longer filled with anxiety or longing. Instead, it feels steady, grounded, almost like a quiet current flowing beneath the surface of your life. Many people on the twin flame path describe this stage as the beginning of energetic harmony. It is the moment when the connection between two souls begins to stabilize. Earlier in the journey, the energy between twin flames can feel chaotic. There are sudden emotional waves, unexpected separations, periods of intense closeness followed by silence. This instability often happens because both individuals are confronting deep emotional wounds. The connection acts like a mirror, reflecting unresolved fears and insecurities back to each person. But when both individuals begin healing those wounds, something powerful begins to happen. The energy between them slowly becomes balanced. And when that balance begins forming, certain subtle signs often appear. The first sign is a deep sense of inner certainty. Earlier in the journey, the mind constantly asks questions. Are they really my twin flame? Will we ever reconnect? Did I imagine everything? But as the energy stabilizes, these questions begin to fade. Not because someone has proven the answers logically, but because something inside simply feels calm. The connection no longer needs constant validation. It exists quietly within your awareness. This inner certainty often brings a surprising emotional shift. Instead of feeling desperate for reunion, you begin feeling peaceful regardless of what happens next. You trust the process of life. You trust your own growth. And strangely, that trust makes the connection feel stronger rather than weaker. Another sign of energetic harmony is the disappearance of emotional triggers. Earlier in the twin flame journey, small events could create intense reactions. A delayed message might cause anxiety. A sudden silence might feel devastating. Seeing them interact with someone else might create waves of jealousy or fear. These reactions usually come from unresolved emotional wounds. But when healing occurs, these triggers lose their power. You may still feel emotions, but they are no longer overwhelming. You become capable of observing your feelings rather than being controlled by them. And this emotional stability creates a healthier, energetic space between both individuals. Many people also report that during this stage, synchronicities change in nature. Earlier in the journey, synchronicities often appear dramatically. Repeating numbers, unexpected reminders, songs and symbols that feel almost impossible to ignore. But once energetic harmony begins, these signs often become quieter. Instead of dramatic coincidences, people experience gentle confirmations. A meaningful dream, a sudden feeling of calm when thinking about their twin flame, a sense that the connection is quietly present without needing constant external reminders. This shift can feel deeply reassuring. It suggests that the connection is no longer trying to force your attention. Instead, it exists naturally within your emotional landscape. Another fascinating sign that many people describe during this stage is a sense of energetic presence, even when there is no physical contact. People sometimes feel as if their twin flame's energy is near them. This does not usually appear as a dramatic supernatural event. Instead, it is more like a gentle awareness, a warm sensation in the heart, a peaceful feeling during meditation, or a moment where thinking about the other person suddenly brings a wave of calm. These experiences often happen during quiet moments, when the mind is relaxed, when the heart is open, and when emotional resistance has dissolved. Some people say it feels like their twin flame's energy is silently supporting them, encouraging them during difficult moments, celebrating with them during joyful ones. Whether this experience is energetic resonance or simply the psychological impact of a meaningful relationship, the emotional effect is often the same. It creates a feeling of connection that does not depend on physical presence. But perhaps the most powerful sign of energetic harmony is something surprisingly simple. You begin living your life fully again. Earlier in the twin flame journey, many people become emotionally consumed by the connection. They think about it constantly. They analyze every detail. Their happiness may even feel dependent on whether the relationship progresses. But once harmony appears, this changes. The connection no longer dominates your thoughts. You still care about your twin flame. You still appreciate what the connection represents. But your life expands again. You pursue your passions. You build new experiences. You deepen friendships. You reconnect with your personal dreams. And ironically, this independence often strengthens the energetic bond rather than weakening it.
Why?
Because healthy connections thrive when both individuals are emotionally complete within themselves. When two people no longer depend on each other for emotional survival, their connection becomes more authentic. It is no longer driven by need. It is guided by choice. Choice to love. Choice to support. Choice to share growth. This stage of harmony often brings a profound realization. The twin flame journey was never only about the other person. It was about awakening parts of yourself that had been hidden. It was about learning emotional resilience, self-love, spiritual awareness, personal transformation. The other person may have acted as a catalyst, a mirror, a spark that ignited deep internal change. But the true destination of the journey was always personal evolution. And when both individuals reach that level of growth, something extraordinary becomes possible. The energetic bond between them becomes stable, peaceful, balanced. At this point, reunion is no longer driven by emotional desperation. It becomes something far more natural. Two individuals who have healed themselves can reconnect without repeating the painful patterns of
The past.
their energy no longer clashes. It harmonizes, like two musical notes finally forming a perfect chord. Of course, not every twin flame story leads to physical reunion. Life is complex. Circumstances change. People follow different paths. But what many individuals discover during this stage is that the connection itself has already fulfilled its deeper purpose. It helped them become more aware, more compassionate, more aligned with their authentic self. And in that sense, the journey was never wasted. In fact, It may have been one of the most transformative experiences of their life. But there is still one final mystery that many people wonder about. If two souls truly share such a powerful energetic bond, what happens when they finally come back into each other's lives again? Does the energy feel the same? Or does it evolve into something entirely new? In the next chapter, we will explore what many people describe as the most profound moment of the entire twin flame journey. The moment when two individuals who have grown, healed, and transformed encounter each other again, and discover whether the connection they felt all along was preparing them for something even greater. Separation is often described as the most painful phase of the twin flame journey. It is the stage where two people who once felt inseparable suddenly find themselves living completely different lives. They may stop talking, block each other on social media, move to different cities, or even enter new relationships. Yet, paradoxically, many people report that the energetic connection becomes stronger during this time. How can two people feel each other more deeply when they are physically apart? Why do emotions, dreams, and intuitive signals become louder instead of fading away? This phenomenon is often described in the twin flame community as energy exchange during separation, a stage where the energetic bond continues evolving even when the physical relationship pauses. To understand this, we need to explore the deeper mechanics behind emotional mirroring, energetic resonance, and subconscious communication. The paradox of distance. In ordinary relationships, distance usually weakens emotional attachment. When people stop seeing each other, the emotional intensity gradually fades. Memories soften. The mind moves on. But many twin flame connections seem to follow a completely different pattern. Instead of fading, the connection often becomes more noticeable. Someone might wake up suddenly thinking about their twin flame, even after months of silence. They might feel a wave of sadness without knowing why, only to later discover their twin flame had gone through a difficult day. Some experience vivid dreams where their twin flame appears, communicating feelings that were never expressed in the physical world. These experiences raise an important question. If there is no contact, why does the connection still feel alive? The answer lies in the idea that separation in the physical world does not necessarily mean separation in the energetic or subconscious layers of the mind. Emotional mirroring during separation. One of the most common experiences reported by twin flame communities is emotional mirroring. This happens when one person suddenly feels emotions that do not seem to belong to their own
circumstances.
Imagine this scenario. Sarah is having a perfectly normal day. She feels calm, focused, and emotionally stable. Then suddenly, a deep wave of anxiety appears. Nothing in her environment explains it. But later that evening, she receives unexpected news. Her twin flame had experienced a major emotional breakdown earlier that same day. Coincidence? Maybe. But when this pattern repeats again and again, many people begin to wonder if something deeper is happening. Some psychologists suggest that emotional mirroring may be connected to heightened empathy and subconscious attachment patterns. When two people have formed an intense emotional bond, their brains become highly sensitive to each other's emotional states. In other words, the brain may still be tracking the other person even after the relationship ends. The energetic perspective. From a spiritual perspective, many traditions describe the human heart and brain as powerful electromagnetic generators. Some researchers studying human physiology have found that the heart produces an electromagnetic field measurable several feet away from the body. This field can interact with the fields of other people. When two people spend a lot of time together emotionally, mentally, and physically, their biological rhythms can begin to synchronize. This includes heart rate patterns, breathing rhythms, emotional states, brain wave activity. When such synchronization becomes deeply established, separation may not immediately break the pattern. Instead, the system continues trying to maintain resonance. This is why some people report feeling sudden emotional waves connected to their twin flame even months or years after separation. Whether interpreted scientifically, psychologically, or spiritually, the experience itself is very real for those who go through it. Dreams, the subconscious meeting point. Another powerful channel of energy exchange during separation is dreams. Dreams often bypass the logical mind and allow the subconscious to process emotions that were never fully expressed. Many twin flame experiences include dreams where the two individuals communicate openly, resolve conflicts, or simply spend time together in peaceful environments. Sometimes these dreams feel unusually vivid. The person wakes up feeling as if the interaction truly happened somewhere beyond the physical world. Some describe conversations where their twin flame apologizes. Others experience dreams where both simply sit together quietly, feeling calm and connected. These dreams often leave behind a lingering emotional impression that lasts for hours or even days. Whether these experiences represent subconscious processing or something more mysterious, they often help people release unresolved emotions. The runner and chaser dynamic. During separation, many twin flame relationships fall into what is commonly called the runner-chaser dynamic. One person becomes overwhelmed by the intensity of the connection and pulls away. The other person feels the loss deeply and begins searching for answers. But here is where the energy exchange becomes fascinating. Even when the runner physically distances themselves, they often continue experiencing the energetic pull of the connection. They may feel unexplained emotional pressure. They may dream about the chaser. They may feel sudden curiosity about what the other person is doing. This often leads to behaviors like silently checking social media, viewing stories without responding, or appearing briefly in each other's lives before disappearing again. From the outside, this behavior may look confusing, but from an energetic perspective, it reflects the ongoing resonance between two deeply connected individuals. Why separation can trigger growth. Another reason the energy exchange intensifies during separation is personal transformation. The twin flame journey is often described as a catalyst for deep self-awareness. When the relationship pauses, both individuals are forced to confront their own emotional patterns. Unhealed wounds begin to surface. Fear of abandonment, fear of intimacy, old childhood patterns, personal insecurities. The emotional energy that once flowed between the two people now redirects inward. This process can feel uncomfortable, but it also becomes an opportunity for profound personal growth. In many cases, the separation phase becomes the very stage where both individuals develop the emotional maturity needed for a healthier connection later. Real-life example. Consider the story of Daniel and Maya. After a deeply intense relationship, they suddenly stopped speaking. Months passed without a single message. Yet Maya often woke up feeling Daniel's presence strongly in her mind, especially during stressful moments in her life. At the same time, Daniel later admitted that during that same period, he frequently felt the urge to contact her but held himself back because he believed he needed time to understand his own emotions. Neither of them knew the other was experiencing similar thoughts. But the emotional synchronization remained. Years later, when they finally spoke again, both were surprised to discover how many of their experiences during separation had overlapped. Is it connection or projection? Of course, it is also important to approach these experiences with balance. Not every emotional wave or dream necessarily comes from another person. The human mind is powerful, and strong emotional memories can easily trigger internal responses. Sometimes what feels like energetic communication may simply be the mind processing unresolved emotions. The key is not to become obsessed with interpreting every signal. Instead, the healthiest approach is to focus on personal growth, emotional healing, and inner stability. Whether the connection is spiritual, psychological, or a mixture of both, personal well-being should always remain the priority. The deeper purpose of separation. Many people who go through the twin flame journey eventually realize that separation is not merely about distance. It is about transformation. It is about learning how to stand independently while still honoring a deep connection. The energetic exchange during this phase may act like a reminder that some bonds cannot simply be
erased.
But the purpose of the connection is not to create emotional dependence. Instead, it often pushes both individuals toward deeper self-awareness and emotional maturity. And sometimes, after enough growth has occurred, the two people find their way back to each other. Reflection. Have you ever experienced a moment where you suddenly felt someone's emotions even though they were far away? Have you ever dreamed about someone repeatedly during a time when you were no longer in contact? And when you woke up, did it feel like the connection never truly disappeared? Perhaps separation does not always mean the end of a connection. Sometimes, it is simply the quiet space where two souls continue evolving until the moment they are ready to meet again. For many people on the twin flame journey, the idea of reunion feels almost mythical. After months, or sometimes years, of separation, silence, emotional turbulence, and personal transformation, the question remains, can two people who once walked away truly find their way back to each other? And if they do, how does it actually happen? Unlike romantic movies where reunion occurs through dramatic gestures or sudden declarations of love, twin flame reunions often unfold in a much quieter and more mysterious way. It rarely begins with fireworks. Instead, it begins with energy alignment. Something subtle shifts inside both individuals. The resistance that once pushed them apart begins to dissolve. Emotional wounds that once triggered fear start to heal. And gradually, the energetic connection that never truly disappeared becomes stable enough to support physical reconnection again. The calm before reunion. One of the most surprising aspects of twin flame reunion is that it usually arrives after a period of deep inner peace. During the earlier phases of the journey, the connection often feels overwhelming. There may be emotional highs and lows, intense longing, and constant thoughts about the other person. But as personal healing begins to happen, something important changes. The obsessive thinking fades. The emotional dependency softens. The person who once felt desperate for reunion begins to feel calm. They start focusing on their own life again. They rebuild their routines, their friendships, their passions. And paradoxically, this is often the moment when the energy between twin flames becomes balanced enough for reunion to occur.
Why?
Because the relationship is no longer driven by need. It becomes guided by alignment. The energetic shift. Many people describe a moment when the energetic connection suddenly feels different. Instead of chaotic emotional waves, there is a sense of stability. Instead of longing, there is quiet acceptance. Instead of chasing or running, there is simply presence. This shift can feel almost like a peaceful silence between two souls. At this stage, something powerful happens. The energetic exchange that once triggered pain now begins to transmit calmness. You might suddenly feel warmth in your chest when thinking about them. You might notice that memories of the past no longer carry resentment or sadness. Instead, they feel like lessons. And that emotional neutrality creates space for something new to grow. Unexpected contact. Another fascinating pattern reported by many twin flame experiences is that reunion rarely happens through a carefully planned conversation. Instead, contact often happens unexpectedly. A message appears after years of silence. A chance meeting occurs in a place neither person expected to visit. Or one person suddenly feels an undeniable urge to reach out. Sometimes the message itself is simple. Hey, I was just thinking about you. No dramatic explanation. No emotional speeches. Just a quiet reconnection. And yet, for those who experience it, that simple moment can feel like the entire universe has shifted. Because the energy behind the contact feels completely different from before. When the runner returns, in many twin flame dynamics, the person who once distanced themselves, the runner, is often the one who initiates contact during reunion. This can feel surprising, especially for the person who once felt like the chaser. But there is an important reason behind this. During separation, both individuals are going through their own internal transformation. The runner is often learning how to face emotions they once avoided. The chaser is learning how to release attachment and rediscover their independence. When both people reach a more balanced emotional state, the energetic tension between them dissolves, and the runner no longer feels the need to escape. Instead, curiosity replaces fear. They may begin checking your social media again. They might ask mutual friends about how you're doing. Or they might simply send a message after a long period of silence. For many people, this moment feels surreal. The person who once disappeared suddenly reappears. But this time, their energy feels calmer, more grounded. Reunion does not mean perfection. One important truth about twin flame reunion is that it does not magically erase all challenges. Even after reconnection, both individuals are still human. They still carry personalities, habits, and life circumstances that require patience and communication. The difference is that the relationship is no longer driven by emotional chaos. Instead, it is built on a deeper level of awareness. The two people understand each other's vulnerabilities more clearly. They recognize the lessons that separation taught them. And because of that, they approach the relationship with greater maturity. Reunion becomes less about romantic fantasy and more about conscious partnership. A story of reunion. Consider the story of Elena and Marcus. When they first met, their connection was immediate and intense. They felt as if they had known each other for years, even though they had just met. But the emotional intensity quickly became overwhelming. Marcus began pulling away, unsure how to handle the depth of the connection. Elena, confused and hurt, tried to hold the relationship together. Eventually, they separated completely. For nearly 3 years, they had no contact. During that time, both of them went through major life changes. Elena focused on building her career and learning how to find happiness without depending on the relationship. Marcus spent time traveling and reflecting on his emotional patterns. Then one day, unexpectedly, Marcus sent a message. Not a dramatic apology. Just a simple sentence. I hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about you lately. At first, Elena felt nervous. But when they finally spoke again, something had changed. The tension that once defined their connection was gone. Instead, their conversation felt natural, calm, and genuine. They were no longer trying to complete each other. They were simply two people reconnecting after growing separately. And that shift allowed their relationship to evolve in a healthier way. The real meaning of twin flame union. Many people believe the twin flame journey is ultimately about finding the one. But the deeper truth may be something far more powerful. The journey is about awakening. It is about discovering parts of yourself that you might never have confronted without the intensity of the connection. The mirror effect of the twin flame relationship exposes fears, insecurities, and emotional patterns that were previously hidden. Through that process, both individuals are pushed toward personal transformation. Reunion, when it happens, becomes the natural result of that growth, not the goal itself. The question you must ask yourself. If you are currently experiencing separation on the twin flame journey, you may find yourself constantly wondering, when will reunion happen? But perhaps the more important question is this. Who are you becoming during the journey? Because the most powerful transformation rarely happens when two people come together. It happens when each person learns how to become whole on their own. When that happens, reunion is no longer something you desperately wait for. It becomes something that may naturally occur when the time is right. Some connections enter our lives quietly. Others arrive like a storm, shaking everything we once believed about love, identity, and destiny. The twin flame journey belongs to the second category. It can be confusing. It can be painful. But it can also be one of the most transformative experiences a person ever goes through. Whether reunion happens or not, the journey itself often leaves people more self-aware, more compassionate, and more emotionally evolved. And perhaps that is the real purpose behind it all. Not just to find another soul, but to finally discover your own. So let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who changed your life in ways you never expected? Someone whose presence forced you to confront your deepest fears and your greatest potential at the same time? And even if they're no longer in your life today, do you still feel that their influence continues shaping the person you are becoming? If so, maybe that connection was never meant to be ordinary. Maybe it was meant to transform you. If this story resonated with your experience, share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey might help someone else understand their own. And if you want to explore more topics about twin flames, spiritual connections, and emotional awakening, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes the answers we search for the most are the ones we discover together.
Thank you for spending this moment with me. If this message resonated with your soul, remember to subscribe and continue this journey with us here on Twin Flame Journey. And always remember, what is meant for your soul will always find its way back to you. Until next time, beautiful soul, trust the journey.